Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mok-yeon. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula have reached a new and dangerous threshold. South Korean President Lee Jae Myung is warning of a real risk of accidental military clashes as the situation has escalated to a point where even minor missteps could trigger a crisis. North Korea is fortifying the DMZ with triple barbed wire, expanding uranium enrichment at its Yongbyon nuclear facility, and advancing AI-powered surveillance technology. And at the same time, Pyongyang is also showcasing Kim Jong-un's daughter as a rising figure and aligning more visibly with China and Russia. With no remaining channels for deconfliction and provocations escalating, the region may be entering a new phase of strategic volatility. So tonight, we look at where things stand and what may come next. And for this, we are joined in the studio by Kim Mok-yeon, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute for National Security Strategy. A big welcome.
It's good to see you.
And also joining us online is Bruce Klinger, Non-Resident Senior Fellow at the Marine and Mike Mansfield Foundation. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So let's begin with Dr. Go with the big picture first, of course. So recently, President Lee told reporters that the inter-Korean relations have reached a dangerous adversarial state where an accidental conflict could be possible. Could you tell us, in your view, how serious is this situation?
Well, President Lee's characterization of the tension between the two Koreas is basically notional rather than real. So it doesn't mean that he's exaggerating anything. We know that two Koreas are technically still at war, and there are always some sort of cause for like escalation here, because there's a cause you mentioned already in your explanation. There's no hotline active right now between the two Koreas, so an accidental clash could quickly escalate into a more serious form of conflict. So I think what President Lee is saying here is, in addition to notionally characterizing the tension in the region, he also is essentially cabling or telegraphing to North Korea that there's a huge pressing necessity to re-establish contact and restart the military talks. So in fact, we have, in addition to President Lee's characterization of the security situation in the Korean Peninsula, South Korean government had urged North Korea to come back to the table to restart the military talks. So essentially restoring the so-called September 19th military agreement, which led to the stand down of the military posture on both sides. So I think we have to take this in that context, that President Lee again is urging North Korea to re-engage the South so that the things de-escalate and we are able to maintain the stability in the region.
Then, Dr. Go, what about his statement about, going against the idea of absorption unification? He also mentioned that he called it irresponsible and it's a very costly act. What does this clarification by the president of South Korea actually mean?
It's essentially a differentiation from the previous government of President Yoon Suk-yeol. So in former President Yoon, he had tried to depart radically from the existing South Korean stance on unification. So whereas before Korean government had insisted that any unification with the North would be unification between the two equals. So essentially, there will be a gradual process of unification rather than sudden unification, which would assume or presuppose collapse of North Korea. So then naturally the South Korea would absorb the North. And so I think this idea was actually essentially was behind the new unification doctrine that the former President Yoon was proposing, which is the idea of basing the unification on the principles of a liberal democracy. So given that liberal democratic values are flatly rejected by North Korea, this was a no-go from the beginning. But at the same time, it was a way of positioning South Korea as a leader in the region that essentially lead North Korea into changes politically and socially. So what President Lee now saying is that Korea is going back to the pre-Yoon unification doctrine, which is a gradual process of unification, where there'll be enough time for North Korea to adapt to changes in circumstances and prepare itself for eventual unification. So it's same as saying that unification is not going to be happening until North Korea is ready to do so. So it's an idea of re-emphasizing the long-established doctrine of unification that was briefly intercepted by a new unification doctrine under President Yoon.
Right, so generally a more realistic and kind of an open stance towards
Exactly.
North Korea we're seeing. So going back to the current situation, like Dr. Go has mentioned, all inter-Korean communication channels are currently completely severed. What are the practical consequences then of this silence, Dr. Klinger? And is there any realistic path towards restoring even the most basic dialogue?
Well, this really is more of the norm than the exception. We haven't had any contact by U.S. diplomats with the North since October 2019 meetings in Stockholm, and a similar gap in discussion between the Koreas since then as well. So, and even before the surge in engagement in 2018, 2019, there had been years of lack of contact between the Koreas. So, unfortunately, it tends to be the standard status quo rather than the surge in engagement. The danger, as Dr. Go has pointed out, is that there's the risk of inadvertent clash because North Korea has repeatedly conducted provocations against the South. The Koreas abrogated the Inter-Korean Comprehensive Military Agreement. So even if we can't get to discussions about denuclearization or other issues, both Washington and Seoul have sought engagement with North Korea to discuss, if not a formal resumption of the Comprehensive Military Agreement, at least measures to reduce the likelihood of inadvertent clashes. The problem is that North Korea literally won't pick up the phone, so it's hard to have any kind of engagement or even threat reduction action if there is some kind of tension on the peninsula. Now, that has led some to argue that we should offer yet more concessions to North Korea simply in the hope of getting them back to discussions, if not the negotiating table. But I disagree with that. Washington and Seoul have both made many concessions over the years to little effect, and I don't think we need to offer yet more to North Korea because it's Pyongyang that is in violation of UN resolutions and the Korea that has conducted repeated military provocations.
Thank you for that, Dr. Klinger. But adding to this concern about the silence, there are reports that North Korea has installed triple layers of barbed wire along the DMZ, which is something not seen since the Korean War, I believe. What does this actually indicate about Pyongyang's evolving military posture?
Well, barbed wire, like landmines, are a defensive weapon, so some would say this is reflective of the North's fear of an attack by the U.S. or South Korea. But I think that's a quite debatable point. But it really is a visible manifestation of North Korea's resistance, reluctance, refusal to engage with South Korea. And it goes along with Kim Jong-un's declaration that the Korean Peninsula is not one country, but is two very separate warring states, and it really is a physical rejection of engaging with the South or hopes for reconciliation, let alone reunification. So it just shows that the grounds for engagement with North Korea right now are not very good. Well,
it seems that it will take some time diagnosing from this current point. But let's turn to the nuclear front, Dr. Go. So satellite imagery lately shows that new construction is seen around a suspected uranium enrichment facility in Yongbyon. How serious is this in terms of North Korea's nuclear capacity, and how would you read into the messaging?
I think when it comes to qualifying North Korea's nuclear threat level, I think it's already way beyond the level of worrisome. I think it's already very critical. And we know that North Korea had been engaged in so-called the mass production of nuclear materials and nuclear weapons for a while. So that means that they need to expand the physical manufacturing base to produce more nuclear fissile materials. In this case, probably uranium enrichment facilities. So it is likely that North Koreans are installing more enrichment centrifuges in Yongbyon. And then, I mean, personally, my major concern would be the construction or manufacturing of a new centrifuge machines, incorporating advanced materials that probably they receive from Russia. So, for instance, we know that last month, actually 2 months ago, when Kim Jong-un, before Kim Jong-un went to Beijing for the Victory Day parade, he showcased another brand new ICBM model, the Hwasong 20. And Hwasong 20 was made of composite materials, and these are very light and strong materials that are not based on steel. And so they can also use the same composite materials to make centrifuges, which actually increase the productivity of these centrifuges to enrich uranium, meaning they can produce more massive quantities of uranium, which are necessary to produce more nuclear warheads. So if that's indeed the case, then it means that North Koreans are building more enrichment facilities, meaning that North Korea's nuclear capability in terms of a size of a nuclear arsenal could be much more expansive than we had thought. So in that sense, I think the magnitude of a North Korean threat could be by an order higher in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's all the more concerning. But Dr. Go, alongside these conventional threats, there are also concerns about North Korea making unexpected progress in terms of AI, especially in facial recognition and also voice synthesis. What kind of security challenges could this actually raise?
Well, at the most, like a nominal level, face recognition means better surveillance and control for the North Korean regime. That's exactly the type of technology that the Chinese are very advanced at, and also which being widely used everywhere in the world for security purposes. So that's the use of AI technology in the face recognition. And second, about the use of AI for voice synthesis. We know that North Koreans have been using AI technology for like social engineering to engage in hacking against, say, like the IT companies as well as cryptocurrency exchanges. So it means that the North Korea could really kick into high gear the use of AI for their nefarious, illicit purposes. That's the major concern. But at the same time, I think it doesn't mean that North Korea is a superpower when it comes to AI. It only shows that how flexible and accessible AI technology is. Right now, even individuals can make use of AI. So it's not a surprise that North Koreans themselves are, as a country, is making use of AI. But then the concern is that when we combine North Korea's state-level capability with AI technology and they focus that capability on carrying out criminal activities, especially in the for financial purposes, then could really exponentially increase the damage caused by North Korea's hacking, North Korea's theft of cryptocurrencies, and so forth.
Right. So all of these concerns and developments from North Korea seems to be coming from its collaboration and cooperation with China and Russia. So Pyongyang seems to be leaning more heavily on those two countries, which some people are calling the so-called 안러경중 strategy to obtain security from Russia and economic benefits from China. Dr. Klinger, how viable is this model, and does it give North Korea some meaningful strategic leverage, do you think?
It certainly benefited North Korea economically as well as militarily. So the North Korean economy is always in very dire straits. But in the last few years, particularly with the engagement with Russia, North Korea has received massive amounts of food and fuel and funding and perhaps military technology in return for sending large amounts of artillery shells, artillery weapons, missiles, as well as North Korean troops. So that has really enabled North Korea to mitigate the impact of international sanctions, which are not being very strongly enforced anyway. And also there has been some re-engagement with China on, or resurgence of North Korean trade with China. So North Korea feels it's in a much stronger negotiating position or a much more strategic position than it was several years ago. Because, estimates vary, but North Korea may have received up to $20 billion in return for the weapons that it sold to North Korea. And this is a country with a GDP of about $29 billion a year. So significant help, along with North Korea's cyber capabilities and its cryptocurrency thefts. Earlier this year, there was a single incident where North Korea gained $1.5 billion from a single cyber or cryptocurrency heist. So it's certainly enabled North Korea to have a much stronger position now than it was even just a few years ago.
Right, so it will be definitely important to see how North Korea would navigate its relationship with China and Russia moving forward. Now, on the leadership side, Dr. Klinger, Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Joo has made over 600 appearances in its state media since 2022. Are we witnessing signs of a succession plan or something else? What are your thoughts?
Well, perhaps it's indicative of a succession plan. I'm still sort of wary that she will be the successor. But in a way, I think we focus too much on Joo-ae, just as we focus too much on Kim Jong-un's sister. Either one of them may be the successor or not. It could be the rumored elder son of Kim Jong-un, who's not yet made an appearance, or someone else in the Kim dynasty. But really, I think the focus should be on the current leader and his policy. So until another leader takes the stage, I think we need to focus our attention on Kim Jong-un and his policies. And there is no indication that there will be any change in policies or strategies by North Korea if Kim Jong-un leaves the scene and either his daughter or his sister or someone else takes the scene. Just as there had been a lot of speculation when Kim Jong-il assumed power in the 1990s that some even asserted he was a bold economic reformer. North Korea was on the cusp of implementing massive economic reform and that there would be changes in strategy. And we heard the same language when Kim Jong-un assumed power. So I think we focus on the leader of today and the policies of today.
Right, a very important point you're making. We have to focus on how Kim Jong-un would rule his regime currently. Now, looking ahead, Dr. Go, North Korea will close out the year with a major party plenary, and also it will be followed by next year's Congress. What kind of signals do you think we should be watching for?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to start the guessing game about what North Korea could say in the upcoming meeting. The reason is because both United States and South Korea, and perhaps even China, were working really hard behind the scenes to set the stage to restart the dialogue with North Korea. So we know that from media reports that South Korea is expecting some sort of outcome to come out of the planned meeting between President Trump and President Xi next year in Beijing in April. And then in addition, there's been already some comments that the next year's joint military drills between South Korea and the United States could scale down. I think this was hinted at by the Minister of Unification, Jong Dong-young. So, and that joint military exercise is scheduled to take place in March. So, and these are all like public signals. These are all information well known, and not just us, but to North Korea as well. So I think North Koreans could start making calculations. And some of the understanding about North Korea's decision-making process is that it's a function of their relationship with Russia. And their relationship with Russia, in turn, depends on the ongoing war in Ukraine. So now that we have seen that there could be some, hopefully, some sort of a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia, this could quickly affect North Korea's calculation regarding their relationship or like unlimited partnership with Russia. Because I think, despite what people say about the closeness between Moscow and Pyongyang, at the end of the day, it's driven by the transactional nature of these relations. That Russia depends on North Korea for the weapons above anything else. So if the war in Ukraine ends, then there's be necessity on the part of Russia to rely on North Korea, which could compare or create the need for North Korea to find the new interlocutors, and that's when United States could come in again. So, and I think this is the reason why there are so many different factors that could speed up the engagement between Washington and Pyongyang next year. So in that sense, I think North Korea could be making some moves, and that such move could be hinted at the upcoming plenary meeting.
Definitely. So we'll be watching closely not only on North Korea's next direction, but also the geopolitical landscape, including the war in Ukraine and Russia. We'll have to conclude our discussion here at this point tonight. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Go.
My pleasure.
And of course, Dr. Klinger, we really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.